Hello, and welcome to The Fool and the Philosopher.
The Philosopher and the Fool.
Thank you for joining me on this day, brother. Let us turn once more to the old book. These oil-stained pages recount the tales of the fallen, a frayed empire, words without warmth. The hearth has ebbed. Its gleam and life's sparks are but memories against dimming eyes. Let's cast our minds, let's hew our thoughts back as we open the book of the fallen and breathe in the deep scent of history. Listen to these words carried on that breath. These tales are the tales of us all. Again, yet again. We are history relived, and that is all. Without end, that is all. Let us remember, on this day, Fiddler and his journey through Rariku. So Fiddler was lost in the desert, without water, and all around him, his friends were dying. They chased an enemy that they could not find. Like, as we struggle. I didn't actually write anything here. So I was thinking anyways, recently.
Were you trying to do a sermon?
Yes, that,
Because it reminded me a lot about a sermon.
the Bible is only, 1,000 pages long at most? I think it's more like 600. It's a lot of material, and it's pretty deep, but it gets a bit repetitive. And so I think, churches would be served to choose, a longer book or, a longer series. So I was thinking the Malazan Book of the Fallen is perfect because it's really long, but it's also very deep.
Well, I think the Bible was originally very long, and the stories slowly got cropped down over time.
Yeah, but it's not as long as the Malazan Book of the Fallen. And I think you could definitely have a sermon from the Malazan Book of the Fallen. Like, when the bridge burners go through Rariku, they're lost in the desert, and they keep on struggling even though they're dying, and they become heroes. Because they don't give up. They become the greatest heroes the world has ever seen. And, when you're in a hard place and you're struggling and you don't see an end in sight, and every victory is just another failure when as the bridge burners keep finding the bodies of those they chase. The desert forges you. So remember Rariku and be there with Fiddler and Whiskey Jack. And Quick Ben joins them in the end. Their enemy joins them, remember. So what was once something you struggled with will become a strength, and it will become something you can draw upon. And don't sow mixed seed in fields or wear mixed cloth, or you'll go to hell.
Wait, what? Where'd that come from?
I'm pretty sure that's in the Malazan somewhere. It's in Toll the Hounds by Luke 473.
You're just thinking that, you could apply that?
Remember the words of Karsa. May you slay many children.
And when we remember the words of Karsa, we analyze them and think, boy, we shouldn't take this literally. Otherwise, bad stuff happens.
As Paul said women shouldn't speak in church, so Karsa said we should kill all who are different from us. And though both change their mind, we must take the book's word literally and follow it to the exact, because though they say not to worship false idols, or even false gods in the case of the Malazan Book of the Fallen, this book shall become our God, before all other gods. It's been a recurrent theme. So, Malazan Book of the Fallen, right? It was entirely role-played.
The whole thing.
Yeah, the whole thing. And
I think
I would like to sit in on Steven Erikson and Ian Isaac Asselmont, whatever his name is. That's not his name.
Ice.
Isaac Cameron Esselmont, something like that. I'd like to sit in on there.
Do you reckon it's just the two of them?
So imagine,
or do they have a group of people?
I imagine it's just the two of them. And imagine this, right? So let's say Steven Erikson's the DM.
Yeah.
You enter a room. It's small, 10 feet by 10 feet. In front of you, you see a Juggut curled on the floor, looking away, hunched over a desk. What do? I enter the room, searching for traps. All right? Roll. All right, you don't find any traps. Okay. The Juggut looks up as you approach and speaks to you. What is beauty? Beauty is truth. What is truth? Truth is beauty. Your argument is circular. And so is your kung fu. Roll for initiative.
I think they might embellish a little bit.
Because the books are so philosophical.
I think they might embellish a little bit from there.
Yeah.
I think a little more is added. I can't imagine them first take doing one of what's his name? Badik's conversations. Any of them first try. Yeah,
or organizing
that takes some thought.
An economic system.
Yeah. It takes some thought to come up with the things that Batul says.
Your Your level 6 female human fencer has been raped. Roll for depression. She abandons her child.
Ouch.
Oh, critical fail. She abandons her child.
Okay.
Like, he said they roleplayed everything up to the final, like, page, basically. So I don't know what to take from that.
Or I can like imagine like the duel between Cutter and that one guy where Cutter throws the knives. Like that's something a role player would definitely do.
Where Cutter hurts his friend?
No, where the duelist has just been killed.
Yeah.
By the old duelist.
And then Cutter
goes
cheats in
to
the
fight.
duel.
He doesn't cheat in the duel. It's not a proper duel. They said, let's fight. They didn't say we're in a duel.
Well, he kind of abuses the rules. So.
Yeah, and then he throws knives at the guys.
I can
totally see someone doing that.
Yeah.
Or the part where another Munchkin thing is the endless bag of explosions. Where there's a ghost that can project real explosions into a dream world without getting hurt by them.
Oh yeah, he can make his thoughts come into reality, and he thinks constantly about bombs.
Yeah.
So he just digs a hole out of bombs.
Yeah, he basically empties his bag and rides a giant pillar of explosions.
The one moment that is definitely part of their game, and it actually caused the DM, whoever that was, a bit of annoyance, was when Karsa kills all the elves on the boat.
On the boat?
Because the elves were supposed to give him information about his quest, and instead he just killed them all in a single
because they threatened
swing.
him. Must have gone like a high roll, or just like a 10 as Karsa.
Karsa's stats are probably a bit ridiculous, yeah.
I think a lot of their stats are probably a little absurd.
Yeah, they were playing D&D, and then they switched to GURPS.
Yeah.
And GURPS doesn't have limitations on abilities. So you can just keep upgrading your sword skill to plus 50 or whatever.
Do you think they started out like the backstory that the world's partly based on, like these characters, Anamanda Rake, Lady of Dreams, all those people? Do you think that was their original adventuring party, and then they just continued the world, like starting a new one after them?
I've always thought...
Because that's what it feels like to me.
I agree. Yes. I've wondered that myself.
Like, that's the original super adventuring party, and then these are the people of legend now. And the rest of the world is now having to deal with these super...
So, I've been playing a bit of 4th edition at D&D, and...
Heresy!
I downloaded a module, and I've been playing it by myself.
Heresy!
And it's really good. However, it's really bad. It's like they... I think it's like the best...
It's a tabletop war game.
I think it's really good at more than that. I don't think it's actually a very good war game. I think it's a bit too boring. I mean, it's strategic, but it's kind of boring. It's kind of like playing Divinity Original Sin without the computer doing all the calculations. And, but it's really good for homebrewing. Like, I'm just like, okay, so a short sword does 1d6 plus 6 damage, and all enemies have, like, 60 health. I'm like, okay, a combat in D&D is supposed to last for 5 rounds. So there's 6 extra damage on that sword that's just designed to get rid of randomness in this game. But if you're supposed to hit half the time, and there's 5 rounds, that means you're hitting 2.5 times with 6 damage. So that means 15 damage is just added onto the health. So really, these things only have a health of 30. And the weapons only do 1d6 damage. And they just got rid of they just added the plus 6 to add consistency. Everything has a plus 8 to hit, so why not take that off and take 8 off of everything's armor as well? And then the actual role-playing elements are really weird. It's like, alright, so the skills you can use in this encounter are diplomacy, lockpicking, and investigation. And you need 12 successes before 3 failures to succeed.
Yeah.
And that's actually really clever, but because as the DM, you don't tell your players that, you just do a normal game, and then they say, all right, I investigate. And then if they succeed, then you add a little check mark, and you look at, okay, first investigation, it has revealed this. Second investigation has revealed this. And it's actually really good. I really like that idea. It seems restrictive, but it's not. It's just, they trusted the DMs a lot more, I think, in 4th edition, to, not follow their rules. Because I think since 3rd edition, D&D has suffered from... So actually, it was just 3.5, and 5th edition have this issue, I guess, because 2nd edition doesn't.
What's the issue that...
They don't trust the DMs, and they try to make the game, perfect, and...
Oh, no, 5th edition leaves so much to the DM.
Yes, but 5th edition, it tells you how to make encounters. It tells you need this much of this. Actually, 4th edition does that, too. but 4th edition is very easy to ignore the rules. Like, it's like, I have this when I'm writing, sometimes I'll write these very clever, like, braided sentences that are an absolute nightmare to tweak anything in, because they're so related to each other. And if I write a different kind of sentence, which is much simpler, and there's just like 6 tiny sentences, I think that's actually better, plus I can tweak it very easily. And I think 4th edition's like that. It's like a ton of, like, nice little systems, and you can just ignore, like, half of them, and and custom tailored so that the system's really good for you. However, I don't like a lot of the stuff they did, but like I said, it's very easy to ignore. Whereas in 5th edition, it's a little bit harder. Like, I would get rid of feats if I could, I think, for a large part.
Why would you get rid of feats? Feats are really cool.
Yeah, but they make the game about leveling up, I think.
No, they don't.
And gold is a bit of an issue in 5th edition, I think.
Oh, gold's definitely an issue.
And 4th edition does this thing which so my biggest complaint with 4th edition, 5th edition does this a little bit, but less so, I think. First of all, the number bloat is ridiculous. But apparently it's better than 3.5, so they were just, like, coming off of a ridiculous, even worse one. But 4th, I didn't ever play 3.5, except briefly. And 4th editions is just horribly bloated in my eyes, coming from 2nd, where you have the same weapon from, like, 1st level to 10th level, basically.
Yeah.
You might get a +2 on it.
Yeah, it's fun saying that to your players, like, back in my day with 2nd edition.
And that's how I prefer to play. I prefer to not have the game be about your equipment and levels so much. And I also like it to be like, okay, you've got this teleportation wand, and that is like the coolest thing your party owns, like, ever. Like, you get one neat thing, sort of, after a lot of time. Whereas 4th edition, it's like, okay, here's some starting heroes you can use. So you've got this dude who's like this giant golem made of metal, who has a wand that can shoot lightning. He can also heal his allies next to him, and you also start with like 3 sun rods each, which is like magic glow sticks.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you start with like 4 magic items at level 2.
And what was it?
Like a +6 sword and a...
3rd edition, right? 3.5, sorry. Your starting adventurer kit, this always pissed the ever-living hell of me, is all my adventurers would always start with these 2 items, which is never-ending rope and ever-burning torch.
Really?
These are basic items you could start with in 3.5. They are like items that you could get in any inventory at the start of the game.
It looks like 4th edition, you start with like 50 feet of rope and 10 days of food and 2 sun rods or something. And sun rods were in 2nd edition, so they are kind of a D&D thing. The other thing I don't like
about... the ever-burning torch and the roll of infinite rope are such absolute bullshit items.
So 4th edition, I feel like it's a bit too much. Like, there's just, like, everything has, like, 6 abilities, and they're all, like, give +2 to your adjacent allies, and -1 if you're this, and it's just a bunch of numbers to add up.
Yeah.
5th edition, I think, got afraid of that, and got rid of, like, all the abilities, which I don't like either. Like, I haven't played much 5th edition, so I'm not speaking entirely from experience, but I've looked into it a little bit.
Yeah.
And, 2nd edition... It's funny, I don't know if this is true of all D&D players, but it seems like the edition you start with is, like, the best.
Oh, it is, definitely.
But 2nd edition, every monster has, like, a write-up. 4th edition does something
let's just explain something quickly here. 2nd edition AD&D. There we go.
Yeah.
We've never played 2nd edition.
Right.
We've played
like
2nd
the war
edition
game.
AD&D.
Yeah. So 2nd edition...
That confused someone a lot when I talked about that.
So 2nd edition... 2nd edition monsters all have a write-up, and it tells you all about them. It tells you about their unique power and about their how they act and what they do and what they're like when they talk to you and what they're like when they fight. I love those books so much, the monster manuals. I think they're the best in all of D&D, the 2nd edition ones. And 4th edition does this really cool thing where it actually has a tactics section on monsters. And it tells you, like, these will try to keep you away from this guy while they do this. And it has minions, which I think are a great idea. So it has some really cool ideas. But everything is an ability. So it's like, orcs have Warrior's Surge or something, where they heal if they get bloodied. And 5th edition, I think, also does that, where things have abilities. And they don't need to have abilities. It's not a video game. You can have every single thing be unique.
5th edition doesn't really have abilities. Like, a lot of things are unique in their way. They're just called abilities.
Yeah, well, it's the same in 4th edition, but I like in 2nd edition how it's just part of their flavor text. Like, if like, Nereids, if frightened, will turn into water and try to suffocate and suffocation does this and you save versus this. Like, it's not an ability, it's how they act in the world, and it's a bit more baked into the thing. The thing isn't a bag of stats, it's actually a creature.
Yeah, because then the DM has to decide when the dragon will use its fire breath or not. And what spells the wizard will cast at that moment.
And I really like it if the creatures are more living, breathing things. Like 5th edition and my bigger complaint with 4th and 5th edition is they're really creative, and they have weird brains with beaks and tentacles, and beholders seem to be the flagship of 5th edition, and they have so many weird and strange creatures. But when I play D&D, which I don't do much, unfortunately, maybe because I'm so picky about this or just because I don't know it, I want some humans adventurers fighting bandits that are humans. And I want them to be using normal weapons, and then I want, occasionally, a lion appears, and that's whoa. And then, even more rarely, you get something like an owl bear or something, and you're like, what is this world? There's crazy mythical things in the woods. But they're not... It's almost like adventurer is a job in 4th and 5th edition. Whereas
I get that.
In 4th edition, there's a dungeoneering skill.
Yeah.
Where you can, your character in-game basically knows the player manual. You roll on it, and it's like, oh, that is a Dol-Galant. It's 2 goblins fused together into one. And in 2nd edition, I think you're more ordinary people that maybe your village was attacked and you had to take up swords, and you just go about your life.
Yeah.
Whereas...
Or literally, when you start as a wizard, you're like a wizard's apprentice.
Yeah. There's
a hedge mage.
There's these comics that are mostly based on 3.5 about... And they're parodies, generally, about how rote fantasy worlds are, and that there are adventurers and monsters, and the monsters, it's their job, they go to the dungeon and the adventurers kill them, and there's Looking for Group, and there's Order of the Stick, and they're all oh, adventurer is a job, but that's actually what happened with 4th and 5th edition, I think.
Yeah.
They actually became this world has a bunch of wacky creatures, and you can go and kill them for loot, and it's a viable income source.
I actually had a player one time who thought that the world we were set in, he thought this was just common practice in D&D, that people accepted that their lives were determined by D20s, and oh, that's a +1 sword. He actually thought the world was meta.
Yeah, and it's not... It doesn't.
And he's saying his experience with D&D was all based on reading comics like that.
Yeah, it doesn't discourage you either from that, the 4th and 5th edition. You can actually play it to be very down to earth if you want, but you have to dial it back a bit, and especially 4th edition, I think, with its everything's a +1 weapon or a magic stun rod but you can just dial it back and not give it to the players.
Yeah.
And when I'm playing this actual module, it's one of D&D's top module designers, and it's nothing feels out of place there. You're oh, well, that's a cool magic item that totally fits this exact encounter, and this once you get into actually building the modules, you can take away all the trappings. It's about orcs and stuff, but I could just make them humans, and I could instead of making it about. I also don't. Have I ever complained about fantasy names before on the podcast?
I think we've talked about it a little bit.
D&D is on the edge for me. I don't like it, but they're not as bad as some.
I think that's Ed Greenwood's fault.
But there's they just keep adding to it. But Warforged, I really don't like. I don't like... What I would like in D&D is if there was 4 classes or something. Not however many billion there are. I want a wizard, a cleric, a fighter, and a rogue. I think that's all I really want. And then maybe just a fun bonus one, like a bard or something, I guess. But bards should almost just be rolled into a different class. Your person is a fighter who also likes to sing or something.
And pick locks and cast small spells.
Because playing a bard, you're not that good at anything. It's fun to sing and stuff, but does anyone... People must, but being a buffing guy, does anyone actually like that?
There's bards that get to buff themselves.
I just buffing in general and negating. I'd rather just hit something.
That's why clerics are so unpopular, actually, in D&D.
Yeah?
Do you know about the power creep of the cleric?
Oh, because I think in 4th edition, maybe they did in 5th as well. I think they did this in 4th edition. They made it a separate ability suite to heal or something, just so you don't have to like give off your.
No, they didn't do this in, they sort of did it in 5th edition with, one of the domains is the Domain of Light.
Yeah.
And it gives you additional spell slots, which are just automatically, like, you always have heal spells.
Yeah.
So the power creep of the cleric, which I was watching video of this, is, like, clerics have actually always been really good in some ways compared to wizards, and same with druids, which is they get all their spells at whatever level they're at. They don't have to go and find them, they don't have to learn them, they just have all their spells.
Except they don't, because if you play D&D properly, the player should be begging the GM for the spells.
Yeah.
And the GM doesn't have to give them to them.
Yeah. So, but basically, like, they get all these spells and they can choose which ones to cast whenever they want. Like, they don't have to prepare them. And, like, clerics weren't all that popular because you're the heal bitch. Like, that's all you do is heal your party. And so, in, I think, 3.5, they really changed things up. So clerics, and 3rd edition, clerics can wear armor and they can use sharp weapons. Because, clerics weren't allowed to do that. It really sucked. And they also made clerics just better in general. Like, they got better at fighting. And I don't know, I think in 4th edition they did something else. Like, they gave clerics more spell slots or something and made them slightly better in a different way. And in 5th edition, they buffed all of clerics' spells, made it all the domains for clerics are really good. Clerics, like, automatically can wear heavy armor. They have really good weapons choices. And clerics just have, like, all these amazing things. They have really good hit points. All their level ups are super good. And still no one plays them. But they just keep trying to make clerics better so people will play them. And be like, I don't want to be a cleric.
Yeah, you just have to make them more fun instead. Not stronger.
Well, like, a thing they could even do, which, this is an element from Dota, which is, I think one of the cooler spells that players have definitely abused, is there's a hero who, he's basically a cleric, and he, like, heals someone. It's a target heal. And that's kind of lame. However, whenever you target heals someone, there's an area of effect around them that deals damage to all enemies in that area.
Yeah, that's kind of fun.
So people will abuse it by charging the enemy. Even if you're full health, you cast it on your ally who's like full HP, and you get a nuke going off.
In Age of Wonders, there's a spell called Life Leech where you cast it on one of your units, and they drain life from every unit around them.
Yeah, it's like active heals. Like whenever you cast a heal spell, something else also happens instead of it being a straight up heal. Or it's a super duper heal, which like heals the whole party and brings them back to life or something.
I heard in 5th edition that a long rest fully heals you or something?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Oh, I use that against my party.
Because also in my D&D, right? Injuries should build up over time. Like, if you're fighting through a cave, you can't just take a nap and everything's better. You have to, like, you're going to die if you don't turn around at some point. Like, and it's not because it's hard, it's just if you get, like, 1,000 scratches, a little kip isn't going to, you got to get some medical attention at some point.
Yeah, so what I've done is, what I like to do is, if, like, a party long rests too many times, I like to ambush them or something, or, like, have a thief come along and steal stuff. But, unfortunately, there's 2 elves and a warforged in the party. And all those suckers have, while they're asleep, they can be aware of the world. And so they can basically sit in a little triangle and cover the whole thing. And then the wizard also is paranoid because he's gotten really bad rolls on all his HP. And so he always casts alarm before going to sleep. So the party never gets snuck up on. And he has alarm cast on all his gear so nothing can be stolen from him.
And that's...
The guy is
like, if
so
he doesn't
paranoid.
want to get stolen, then that's good on him.
Yeah, no, it's good, but he's super paranoid. But
yeah.
I have a different thing, which is real-time events are happening in the world. And so if you're resting all your time away, then that werewolf is probably going to destroy the village.
Yeah. I think D&D needs a built-in time mechanic, actually, because time costs you nothing in D&D. Yeah. Like you can add it as the GM, but by the rules, time costs you nothing. Like, you can after every fight, take a nap. Like, that's what you should do, actually, if you want to play, like, ideally. And it's how you play Baldur's Gate and stuff. Like,
I've also straight up banned the spell Goodberry.
Oh, that's such what I would
just banned it.
So what I read what they did for 5th edition, and I don't know the balance, so you'd have to tweak it, of course. But they said, like, a full rest gives you, like, D6 plus Constitution bonus, or something like that, of healing. And, of course, you have to, then they just take, like, 6 naps in a row, unless you give them some reason not to. But
the Necromancer makes more skeletons in the dungeon. Oh, we're just going to rest more then, because we have to fight more skeletons.
So when I say I was playing 4th edition, I actually wasn't. I was playing, I was using a 4th edition module, but I kept changing it to fit my own system, the First Heroes. But I just had like some simple calculation.
Calculation.
Some
simple calculus, yes.
Well, calculus is actually fairly simple. There is simple calculus. But I meant calculus in the terms of calculation, not in terms of actual calculus. Yeah, we can cut all that mess. So when I was doing 4th edition, I used some simple calculations, just like, divide all their HP by 9, that gives you the sustainability. Subtract 18 from their armor, or 16 from their armor, that gives you their AC. Subtract 10 from fortitude, that gives you willpower, whatever, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's way too hard for my party turn. It's cool. But yeah, D&D definitely is going in a different direction from... They're going more towards the players being powerful and it being about the story, and the fights are like a side where you just get to feel powerful.
Yeah.
Where I prefer emergent storytelling through combat. So I like playing XCOM for the story, if that makes sense, but I would rather not have any cutscenes or voice acting. I would rather just have pure battles, but I play it for the story. Or like I play RimWorld for the story.
Yeah.
Or I play Breath of the Wild for a story. I think they're called system games. Games where you just have a bunch of parts that can interact in, infinite ways, and you just see what happens. Or Noita. Like, I haven't played that, but that's a game where definitely...
Oh, what a game. Noita's amazing.
Oh, so Jonas has never... he's like... I was talking to him about Noita, and I said, I want to play it. I want to buy it. And he's like, what's Noita? And I was like, it's like Powder Game, but you're actually like a hero fighting through the world. And he's like, what's Powder Game? I was like, oh. So I just went online, and like I looked it up, and I was showing him. I was just like, see, I put the sand here, and then I put the water, and he was like, got his laptop online. He's like, can I look this up too? I was like, yeah. And then we were going to do something else, but we spent like half an hour, 45 minutes, and he's just like, Cameron, look at this combination. Cameron, look at this combination. Cameron, look at this combination. And I was like, you've never played this, man. I'm glad I showed this to you, because this game is so cool.
Yeah, so VODs have been released for Noita.
Ooh. Does it add ants?
As well. It's not based on the Powder Game. It's based on Falling Dust.
Which is similar, though, right?
Yeah, it's very similar.
Yeah. I think Falling Dust I think Falling Dust might be based on Powder Game, though.
No, Powder Game is based on Falling Dust.
Really?
Falling Dust was like a really rudimentarily kind of bad game that then Powder Game just took to the next level.
Right.
Yeah, Noita is a lot of fun and really frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, I really want to play
I think they should tone down the bullet hell aspect of the game. Yeah. And there's even mods that have done that, where people's like, you're playing this game for the fun physics interactions, like, it doesn't have to be so goddamn hard.
Yeah.
And so there's mods for that, which are really nice.
I watched this video just recently on Systemic Games, and they had Noita in it, and Splunky, and all these games. And he actually said one of the biggest weaknesses of the genre is how frustrating they can be when everything just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And Splunky is an interesting case, because the guy... the game designer actually said, it's very easy to keep adding stuff to this game and just have more and more random chaos. That's not what I do. I try to make it so that everything is as consistent as possible while still interacting in like a huge amount of ways, so that the player actually has control over the game and they're not just playing a slot machine.
Yeah.
Which is fun. Like, a slot machine's fun the first few times, but if Splunky is so carefully balanced, and like, that game has so much content in it that it's so hard to find, and
you'll never see because you suck.
It's incredibly well crafted, and I'm getting way better at it. I've been playing it a lot lately, and I've fought the final boss twice now. Lost very early on both times, and I was dead both times because I'm playing multiplayer with a friend. But then you can only unlock the shortcuts in single player, so we're doing that as well. But then Spunky has these moments where, they're not even frustrating because they're so funny. Like, I saw a video where someone tried to get a box out of the roof, so they, cooked a bomb, cooking a grate sort of thing, then threw it at the roof, and they didn't hold it long enough. It bounced off the roof, bounced to a different portion of the roof, exploded, well away from them, so they're totally safe. But it freed a stone, and it fell down and crushed them, and just instantly killed them. And it's just this hilarious little, pew, boom.
Yeah, so one of the comments I actually got on Noita was someone said, I enjoy watching you die at this game. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's like Dwarf Fortress is another, losing is fun. It's the motto of the game.
Yeah.
And it's definitely the same with RimWorld. And I think there is something definitely to challenge being fun, but there's also frustrating. Frustrating's different, where it's just like
like why is that element like that? Like why is this the design?
Or in Noita, like a one is like worms eating the upgrade room, which is
and they added something to correct that, but still, oh my goodness, that I hate it so much. And someone's just like, oh, use the Emerald Talent on the Guardian, lols. It's like, no! It just shouldn't be like that. And they actually fixed that problem in the game, and they added a worm protector.
And, like, if you spawned onto Spikes and Splunky, or if in Breath of the Wild, you can, I don't know, like if a rock bounces unpredictably and it just crushes you, like it's... But, games being hard and being fun, because you just lose and... Like, I definitely love that. Like, Blood Bowl, I just love watching the spectacle and the story. But I think, like, you know Thanos in the comics in Marvel? Yeah. His weakness is that he causes his own downfalls. Like, he's always succeeding, and then he causes himself to lose due to...
or he gets arrested by the police in the original comics.
But his hubris, right? He causes himself to lose. Because he doesn't want to win.
Yeah.
And so I was playing Warlock, Masters of the Arcane, a couple weeks ago. And I was playing on impossible difficulty against as many AIs as possible. And I was having a really easy time. Like, the diplomacy in that game is super exploitable. I had a really good spawn. My soldiers were strong enough that I could send, like, 2 soldiers to take on an empire, basically. So I just declared war on everyone. And it was kind of like... And then my lands were just invaded from every angle, and it was just kind of like, yes, try to kick me off my throne. I want the challenge. Like, I could have easily won the game, but I just declared war on everyone at once because I wanted to feel alive. I wanted to feel fear. But I was too late and I won. But it was weird. It was like, I have all the power and I just want to lose. I want to feel fear.
So, this is a weird one. But, so, there's something that the latest Diablo is doing, which I feel is something games need to do far sooner. Like, Divinity, a bunch of other games, they've all needed to do what Diablo's doing. So we've talked about before how dumb it is that, like, stats affect immunity on bosses, right?
Yeah.
That's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
So, the Diablo, was it 4 now?
Yeah.
Has this thing on bosses called a stun bar. And so whenever you stun a boss, it fills up the stun bar, depending on, like, how long the stun lasts. And then when that bar hits its max, the boss then gets a set amount of stun dealt to it.
Right, so they're more resistant, but they still can be affected.
Yeah, and then while they're stunned, you can, like, go in there and hurt them a bunch because they're not attacking you.
I like
so
that.
It keeps the element in the game.
Yeah.
So that they're not immune to the stats effect. Because, like, that's the worst thing, like, not being able to stun the boss. Especially, like, there's these games where it's like, okay, I have my whole build right now is built around stunning enemies and doing these chain combos on them. Then I fight a boss, and I'm actually worthless. So I'll build my build so I can fight bosses, but then I can't fight any of the mooks.
Yeah. Or, like in Divinity, with Polymorph, if you had like, I don't think anything is immune to Polymorph, as far as I'm aware. But if something was, that'd be cool if you could just, like, oh, I'll cast it twice, and then they still turn into a chicken.
Yeah.
Because you're like, yeah, fair enough, they're a boss. They should be scarier and harder to deal with, but don't take away my abilities.
Yeah.
Because
I think that's just a brilliant thing that that game has added to it.
No,
like,
I definitely see that, like, going everywhere.
It's a very innovative mechanic.
Like, there's a Breath of the Wild mod I want to get, which adds all sorts of cool rebalancing touches, and one of the main things it does is it, like, I think it like, takes the root or something, the square root of, like, everything's health. So, like, things with, like, 10,000 health are now, like, at 100, and things with 9 health aren't affected that much. They're only brought down to 3. Like, it's not that extreme, but it's something like that.
Yeah.
So it gets rid of the scaling to a certain extent. And it also, like, makes all the weapons weaker. And it just reduces the scaling across the board to be less extreme. So you can fight, like, a Lionel with a ladle, let's say.
Yeah. No,
But the other aspect to it is they make the runes weaker because they're really useful in combat. And the one thing they do is they make it so you can't use the stasis rune on Hinox or Lionels.
Yeah.
And they say because that's just such an abusable strategy, which I can see, although I would argue that the Lionels barely notice the stun rune when I play the stasis rune. But definitely against Hinoxes, it makes the fights trivial. Yeah. Because you can just line up shooting their eye if you've frozen them.
I honestly feel like rebalancing a game should be done the way you did it. Like, not to that extreme, but instead of, in some ways, like, balancing up to balancing down. Like, there's something for number bloat and number creep, which is horrible, but instead of going, this mechanic is too OP, so we're just going to get rid of it, it's like, no, it's really cool. So...
Yeah, and I think, so what they should have done, but, it's hard enough to hack the game in the first place.
Yeah.
But it'd be cool if, if you use the stasis rune, twice, you have to use, wait for the cooldown to come off twice before it affects the Lionel or something.
Yeah.
Or 5 times, because Lionels are scary. But it's and the Lionel maybe, starts, slowly glowing yellow more and more as, the rune takes hold. That'd be cool. You could even have it just have a delay, you use it on the Lionel, and then it slowly, starts slowing down, ugh. But it's just not fun to take away your toys. Although it might be for a good cause, because, I have never struggled against a Hinox, really, except for the one in the dark. And early game, I was just afraid of them, so I ran away. But if I had just stayed there, I think I would have won.
Yeah.
Because once you paralyze them, there's not much they can do.
I really struggled against the first Italis I fought.
Yeah, and then now I just paralyze them and jump on their back and spin around. So I can definitely see getting rid of that.
Well, the first Italis I fought, I didn't have any of the runes, and I was trying to fight it with a ladle, and I had no armor.
Yeah, but once you get, the Stone Smasher or something, it's 6 hits and they're dead.
Yeah.
Depending on the Talus. Yeah, such a good game, though. And that's why I want to install the mod to replay it, because, I also want to play in Master Mode. Cool. And a bunch of other stuff. Okay, so on this... I think we can have guests on our podcast, right?
Yeah, we've had one.
Who would be your dream guest? Now, I'm going to limit this, right?
Okay.
They have to be a good guest for the show. They can't just be I'm the biggest fan in the world of Vladimir Putin, so I want him on the show. He might not be discussing philosophy, let's say, right?
Yeah.
So it can't just be that, or you can't be like Taylor Swift. They have to actually be they have to fit
appropriate to the content of our show. So someone who likes having dinosaurs battle flying whales.
Yeah. Well, no, that's a bit weird. Like Napoleonic soldiers.
Yeah.
So second stipulation is it has to be possible. So
they can't be dead.
Yeah, or not exist. And
I would like Einstein on the stove show.
And thirdly, for now, they have to be a YouTuber. Okay.
Okay.
So, who's your, dream guest or dream guests? I can say mine first if you need a bit of time to think.
Okay, yeah, you go first.
All right. So, I want Dan Green on the show. Daniel Green. Because I've got a bone to pick with him, but also he seems
You're wrong! I hate you!
No, he actually seems like a really cool guy. And, he's, the same age as me. He kind of looks like me. So I want him. He also, he really likes talking about books. He used to be in the tech industry. We could just talk about books with him for 10 episodes, right? Yeah. I think that'd be really fun. And I like going on his show, get my book out, have him advertise it for me. It's win-win. He gets the exposure from our 5 subscribers. My book gets the exposure from his 200,000 or whatever. And win-win. And just really interesting conversation, I think. I think he'd be really fun to talk to. He did advertise Shadowverse Legends recently, which kind of, dropped him a bit, because anyone that can talk about a mobile game positively is lying, I think. Anyone that's been... No, I think there's good mobile games, but they're not the ones sponsoring people. Because people will actually just buy them instead. So another guy I want is Drew Darnell. He looks kind of like me. And...
I've seen a pattern here.
He also lives on the... I think Daniel Green lives on the West Coast, and so does this guy. He is a history channel focused on watching AIs fight each other in various video games.
Yeah.
But he knows a lot about history, so I think he'd be really fun to have on, because we could talk a lot about history. And, he's same age as me, roughly. A lot of similar interests. And I would also like counter-arguments. I don't know if you've heard of this YouTube channel, but he is really cool. All his videos have these really inflammatory titles. It'll be I don't know, let's say, you can't be racist, or white people have too much privilege, or something like that. All these sort of, and not just about race, all sorts of topics. Basically every controversial topic you can think of, he has a video of this. And then he'll show people talking about it, and his video is always about the opposite of his title. And he'll be this is why this statement isn't true, and this is why this, and he's incredibly reasonable, and just leaves everything to logic, where he's okay, where is the foundation for this? What do the stats say? What's the facts say? And it's just so good. Like it's like, wow, yeah, this is how you should like the one thing he really goes into a lot is political debates and how politicians never actually say anything that means anything. Like they'll be like, we want to bring to, well, let's say like he'll do Donald Trump's speech, for example. We want to make the country great again. Okay, that's good sentiment, but that you haven't said anything. That doesn't mean anything. What do you want to make great? What do you want to change? What policies will you implement? What are you going to do? And or it'll be like, we believe in Americans first. What is that? Doesn't mean that's not saying anything. Or it'll be like, we want to help the poor. How?
Yeah.
And so and he does that for like, all sides, all arguments, and it's really cool. And I think he'd just be great to talk to about philosophy and stuff, because and I disagree with him on one of his videos, but that's fine. Like, he seems very reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to him about it. Yeah, I think he'd be cool to have on just because he seems very level-headed anyways. Of course, it's very easy to be level-headed in an essay. And it's funny, you will see people, let's say like, I need to find like a sort of, let's say a Steven Crowder and like H Bomber guy. I don't know if you know either of those channels. But one guy's like a bit left-leaning, the other guy's a bit right-leaning.
Yeah.
And both of them will say the other one is incredibly unreasonable and people need to talk more and not be afraid to voice their opinions, and we need to stop escalating things and stop polarizing and work together. And both of them will talk like that, like very positive stuff. But I think it's just funny to see that these two polarizing figures, when they are actually thinking their thoughts through, they're very reasonable and say, we have to talk things reasonably and be like... Or another great one is the guy with the pointy eyebrows who repeats himself a lot. Ben Shapiro. Just had to get into character.
Yeah.
He'll repeat himself a lot. And he, he's like, we need to work together and we can overlook differences and differences of belief. And then he will suddenly go like totally hardline, no facts based, like anti-environmentalism.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of funny to watch. And you'll see like leftists do it too, where they'll be like, we have to be like totally reasonable and do this and this. And then they'll suddenly be like anti-free speech or think that, like the wage gap is explainable at least. Like a lot of people say it doesn't exist, but it might exist, but we have no idea why if it does. Like we can account for most of it. Like, there's just differences in choice. Like you don't have to have people be all the same because they have their own opinions. And the stars aren't in a grid and they're randomly distributed. I think okay, mathematical lesson, incredibly important. The stars are not in a grid. They are randomly distributed. If you section off any part of the sky and another part, they are going to have a different amount of stars in them. Randomness is not even. That's not random. So if two groups are different, that means everything is working as it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if they're identical, then there's probably an external influence or an incredible freak event happening.
Yep.
Right. So I've got a few more dream guests, but you got any?
Well, it's a weird one. Like, what counts as a YouTuber to you?
Someone who has used YouTube.
Okay. Because, like, there's a few people I would love to have a conversation with, and, like, possibly on podcast format. Vsauce. I think he's an incredibly interesting guy.
Or is
he? Like, I've listened to non-scripted things he's done. He also seems very interesting from the non-scripted.
Yeah, he has like a very eclectic, wide field of knowledge. I think he seems to be physics-based, but he's also very widespread interest. So he'd be fun to have.
Yeah, I don't know, but I guess it's your dream guest. Like, there's this very interesting guy I've recently come across called 2 Minute Papers.
He is so cool. I just started watching him 2 days ago.
Yeah, he has the coolest things to cover.
Like, holy cow! I wish I'd known about him 10 years ago. Because I used to watch, Vsauce 3's, Mind Blown to keep abreast of, the latest technology. But this guy is actually reading the papers, and it's, way more ahead and advanced, and, man.
Yeah, the one, I think one of the coolest videos I've seen of him, if one of the two I've seen, is the OpenAI plays hide and seek and breaks the game.
Yeah, I actually saw, I think Google released their own video on it. I believe it was Google that made it, and so I watched that a while ago, but he just released it. But he has so many cool videos, and the visuals are always so good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just started watching 2 days ago, and he's really good. And he's very good at breaking stuff down. And he's also an expert in the field of graphic design and AI. So he is doing this stuff.
Yeah, it's just I don't know how good he would be talking if it's not like written down ahead of time.
Yeah, but
I mean, we're not that great either, so
yeah, so he'd be perfect fit. But yeah, recently he actually went to on a big tour talking to militaries, I believe, about the fact that AIs that can detect deepfakes are better than deepfakes. So you don't have to worry; you just have to be aware that there is solution.
Oh, wow. That actually makes perfect sense. Having AI to detect deepfakes.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
like, what better thing to learn how to detect things,
Yeah,
that AI generated things, than an AI?
of course. Once those AIs exist, then you can actually use the AIs that detect them to train the deepfake AIs to be better at making deepfakes. And so
it'll be an arm race between the AIs.
yeah, which is how virus is and firewalls already go. So so nothing new. It's just it. But yeah, he really wanted to get that message out. So do my part.
Yeah,
And he's really cool. I'd also like Dave from Boy in a Band because
that's a cool guy. Talk to him about changing his diet.
yeah, like he needs to change his diet, and because he's got depression, and you know he obviously needs to change his diet and become a vegan or something. You know, no,
Yeah, become a super
he
vegan.
is a vegan, and that's his problem. I think he'd be a lot happier if he was like eating baby bunnies and stuff.
Yeah,
because then like I think he'd actually. So he speaking of him, he once made an argument that friends online is equal to friends in person. Like, you don't need to be in person, right?
Yeah.
Now, he also suffers from depression.
Yeah.
So should we trust anything he says? Because people that like having friends in person don't have depression. So maybe he's got... So should we trust anything a depressed... Should you trust anything a depressed person says? Because if they knew better, they wouldn't have depression.
Maybe when it's related to other things, like if they're talking about science, maybe.
Like, you don't need friends. You can just spend your whole life watching YouTube videos. And I have depression. Yeah? Maybe you have depression because you spend your whole life watching YouTube videos. Maybe you have depression because you think that the 5 axiomatical basis, groundwork of math are true. Maybe you have depression because you think that you can have friends over Skype. Maybe...
Okay. Who else would be a dream guest?
I would like Jordan Peterson.
Same.
Because I've got a lot of questions for him. And he would be
basically.
So cool to have on.
A lot. Yeah, basically just ask him tons of questions.
Yeah. And because he seems
and then have him go, wait, what am I doing here? This has a channel with 5 subscribers.
That doesn't really matter though. If people have interest in ideas, I think if you talk to a friend that doesn't, what is a subscriber? It's someone that's interested in your ideas, but...
Well, I was saying that as in, we literally put more work into this channel than people view it.
Yeah. But I don't know if that matters in a way, because... Well, to our ego, maybe, but to conversation...
Yeah.
Like, someone like Kant didn't have any YouTube subscribers, right?
That's what you think.
He exchanged letters with the most brilliant minds of the time because he was brilliant as well. And we are very interested in Jordan Peterson's works, and I think have some questions that could, get him to explain it more. I'm not saying we're the most brilliant minds of the age, but I think we could have an interesting conversation. And I'd also like to have Sargon of Akkad on, because he seems like a very consistent individual. He's very and he's got a lot of good thoughts, and he thinks a lot of stuff through. And he has no idea about environment, and I would love to talk to him about it because he's only seen one side of the story, it seems like. And I do believe that if he's shown the facts, he will just agree with them, because he does seem to be a very consistent individual. Yeah. And he also seems like a really cool guy. And we he talks politics, philosophy, video games all the time. He would be perfect for this.
I would like to have Dave Rubin on so he could agree with us.
Yeah. I'd like to be interviewed by Dave Rubin.
No, I'd like to have him on so he agreed with us.
Because I think he's a decent interviewer. But I don't know what we would talk about actually just if we just had him on the podcast. Although, maybe we could. And although Counterpoints actually has a video about how he doesn't think Dave Rubin's a good interviewer, and it had some good points. But I still like Dave Rubin's show, and I do. Yeah. Well, I don't watch it anymore, but I do like it, and I like what he does.
Dream Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan. I don't know, not for me, but I could see Because
I
he's
think
more
he's
of an interviewer himself.
No, I think like actually interviewing him, like not interviewing him, because he's a very interesting guy. He's done some very interesting
It's
things.
just interviewing people's a lot of work, and I was thinking more people just to have on the show, not to interview, just to talk with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to interview people personally, because it's actually a lot of work to interview someone.
Yeah.
I've done it before, and it's you have to
Guests,
think
not
of questions.
interviewees.
Yeah. So guests on, and that's why I wouldn't want Dave Rubin or Joe Rogan so much. I would like to be on their show, but I don't know if I would want them as a guest. I mean, I would take them because it would be fun to talk to someone different, anyways. But
yeah,
MXR, he could be kind of fun. Although I don't.
So, how's your life and YouTube hating you?
Although, like, he just seems actually not MXR. He's the same age as me. That's why I thought of him. But he doesn't look like me, so I don't want him on.
Yeah,
he's like way too buff. Yeah, and I'm not just listing channels I like, although they are all channels I like. But I want channels that I think I'd have interesting conversation with.
Yeah,
like. And there's a lot out there. Like, I could say, like, Yahtzee, he would probably have some very cool stuff to say from Zero Punctuation. And, like, I don't know, Ben from the Yogscast. Like, there's all these people, but they're not on my, like, dream. Like, this is the cream of the crop I'm thinking of right now.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, the Yogs, like, Ben or Lewis or someone would have been on my top, or Duncan, but with this whole Shin thing, like, it's not that I've lost trust in the Yogscast, it's that I don't support how they handled the whole situation, and it's enough that I just stopped watching. Kind of, you know, if you're a principled person, eventually you'll just be in a barren wasteland not doing anything. Because you can't play Age of Wonders, and you can't watch the Yogscast, so what's left, right?
Yeah.
You can't wear Nike shoes, you can't
play Blizzard games.
Walmart, you can't drive a car, you can't play Blizzard games.
You can't use Chrome.
You can't use anything made by Google. Can't use YouTube. Oh, I think it'd be really cool to have, like Shadiversity or something. Like, he's an he's an author, he's a historian, he likes games, like, he'd be fun.
Mm-hmm.
He lives in Utah or something. I don't live in Utah, so I don't want him. Australia, okay. Right, yeah, he's Australian. Sorry, I was thinking...
He's like our neighbor.
Oh, no, he's a Mormon or something.
Yeah, he's our neighbor, though.
Oh, yeah. But he doesn't live in Utah, he's just a Mormon. Yeah. They're not always the same thing. Yeah.
It's just two people!
Who?
It's just two authors who are Mormons who live in Utah.
No, Utah is like where all the Mormons live.
Okay, but it's just two authors who...
Yeah, but he's a Mormon, so I thought he was in Utah. Like, have you ever watched the Piano Guys? They're Mormons, they live in Utah. You ever watched the Studio C? They're Mormons, they live in Utah.
Really?
You ever watch...
Studio C is Mormons and they live in Utah?
Yeah. Like, all Mormons live in Utah except for Shadiversity. And a few others, probably.
Yes.
But it's kind of like their holy land. It's like the Jerusalem for Mormons. But it's not promised to them, it's just they were allowed to go there or something.
They're allowed to exist there.
I think they were facing, like, massive persecution or something, so they all ran away to Utah, as I understand it. So they all, like, went from the different parts of the United States to Utah. Like, Brandon Sanderson, he's a Mormon. Orson Scott Card, Mormon, both in Utah.
Brandon Sanderson's gone fat.
Yeah, and old.
Yeah, but really fat.
So I don't want him on the show. Only people that look like me. And I'm not fat or old. 5 years from now, we can have him on.
That's how long you think it'll take you to get fat?
And old, yeah. But yeah, Daniel Green, counter-arguments. Drew Darnell, definitely, like, in my top. And Jordan Peterson and Sargon of Akkad, I think. That would be my top 5. Oh, and in my top 10, I'd also want Watch Mojo.
Watch Mojo?
Yeah, it was a joke.
Oh.
They do top 10
lists.
lists.
Your top 10. I get it.
Yeah. But I don't actually like their shows. They take forever to get to the point. Oh, Spirit of the Law. He'd be cool to have on. He's a mathematician who teaches guitar and loves history. Like, that's basically me, except for all of it.
Yeah.
Except the history part. I like history. I like history more than him, though, I think, but still. He'd be cool to have. We're very rational, like, by far more rational than even other incredibly intelligent animals. Like, most animals have a rational part of the brain that augments. Ours can actually override, like, the other parts of our brain.
Mm.
But when you're in danger, you tend to just, I don't know what you call it, go for the...
Throat?
Yeah, you try to, when you're in danger, you try to succeed.
Yeah.
You try to win. It's not about how much you win by, it's just win. So
this is the science behind a paper being due the night before and you write it.
So
you're like, I do better under pressure.
Not quite. I'm thinking more like, if someone insults you in a way that hurts, your first it's an on or off switch. You have you are attacked or you are not attacked. It's not a gradient. So if someone insults you in a way that hurts your feelings, it activates you are attacked.
You're going to stab them in the eye.
That you should stab them in the eye, yes. And so I can give an example. There was this, so I was wrestling this girl, and just like kind of, I think she was just trying to like get up to get like a drink of water or something. And I just, like put an arm around her shoulder and was like stopped her from getting up sort of thing, right? Mm-hmm. And she like put her hands around my throat and started strangling me. And I was like, pulled away. I was like, wow, that's a bit of an overreaction. And she was like, yeah, I don't know what I did. And an example
all or nothing.
Yeah, it's all or nothing. And an example he gave, and that's mostly okay because she strangled me, but like I lived. If you stab someone in the eye, well, you're not going to have like a pencil on hand at all times. And like an eye,
fingers.
It's pretty hard to hit an eye. It's a small target. But he gave an example where this woman was late for work, and so she started like honking a bunch at the person in front of her because there's this big traffic jam. Yeah. And so the woman got out of the car, like the woman in front of her, to go see her, I believe, is how it went. And the woman behind her pulled out a gun and shot her and killed her. And so she was just annoyed at being late for work, and she killed someone. And then she went, when she was in court, she was horrified. She said, I had no idea why I did this. And the reason that the woman was in front of her and late or something was because she was going to pick up her children from daycare, and it was this horrible mess. And she just killed a woman because she was just like a little frustrated. And so it's like on or off. And so that part I thought was very scary. It's like, wow, we should almost have, like, there's a series about Neanderthals. I think it might be called Neanderthal. And in the Neanderthal world, the worst thing you can do is be angry. Because Neanderthals, I don't know if this is true science, but in that world anyway, are a lot stronger than humans. Yeah. So if someone makes you angry and you punch them, they die, basically. Mm. And so it's like guns or swords or whatever else, clubs, we should almost not have access to them because a person in a fist fight probably won't kill you.
Well, what was what was your survivability rate if you were a young lord in the Renaissance?
Yeah, it was like you had like a 25% chance to be killed by another noble or something.
Yeah, and
like because they all just had swords and they were all going around insulting each other or their honor.
Samurai didn't live past their middle years usually, unless they were really good, because it was super easy to duels. Yeah, it's very easy to defend someone's honor. Like if you accidentally touch someone's sword, they will try to kill you.
Yeah, it's so this whole like hair trigger thing I actually I was chopping up some apples the other day, and I needed to like turn to like wash my hands and like it you have to open the compost, chuck the things in, wash your hands, get oil, like there's all sorts of little things you have to do, and it's okay if you're in the kitchen on your own. You're just like opening drawers and someone got like behind me a little bit, blocked my light, and like got in the way of the drawer, and I didn't do anything, right?
Yeah.
But a part of my mind sort of like projected into the future, like reach for that knife. And so I did reach for the knife, and then I walked over slightly and put it out of arm's reach. And I was just like, it's just like, that person is slowing me down. Kill them.
Well, remember that comedian were you there?
I don't know. Which one?
It was in the underground comedy show in the UK we went to.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah.
He's like talking about how London makes you a worse person. And it's like, there's an old woman holding up the line down to like escalator trays. Like, she needs a push. And his leg involuntarily jerked.
Yeah. Like, I didn't even move, right? Like, nothing happened. Like, it was just a tiny, like, 1% of my brain just like, grab that knife. And it was, and because our brains are so rational and powerful, it's very easy to override even that tiny thing. And I think even if we didn't have that overriding thing, the instinct still wouldn't have triggered enough because it's just this tiny instinct. But I noticed it and I was like, yikes.
Although then there's sometimes the whole flight and fight 100% where like someone's goofy around and they like jump up in the air trying to spook you, and you end up elbowing them in the nose and giving them a bleeding nose because you're like, you just lash out.
Well, the same girl that tried to strangle me, actually, her dog jumped on me and I kicked it across the room because it was like a pug. And
yeah, well, as a pug, it probably died.
No, it was okay.
Are you sure it didn't like rupture
fell
or
out and it's like
its body turn inside out?
No, but
have its skin slough off?
No, but it's definitely like you just react suddenly sometimes. So the book I'm reading right now, oh, it's a huge spoiler actually. Very interesting philosophical book I'm reading right now though. And it's like
What's
a
the
very
book?
strong argument for the ends justifying the means. Like, it's okay, I'll without talking about what the story is or how they're doing it or anything like that. 2,000 deaths in 200 years have stopped all wars on Earth. And Jonas thinks that's worth it when I was talking to him. I do not. And if battle lines were drawn around that idea, I would be on the opposite side from him. Because utopias founded upon a corrupt core are not utopia. It is better to have a bad-looking outside and to be pure to the core, I think, than to have a nice veneer and be rotten.
And I don't understand why girls don't go out with me. Because I am pure to the core, even though I am hideous on the outside.
Yeah.
I am one of the good guys. I'm a pure good guy.
I don't wash, but I don't need to because my heart is pure. I'm like Galahad.
I'm like Galahad.
Yeah.
Cameron Galahad's heart's so pure that makes the rest of his body radiate in cleanness.
Yeah, what a great guy.
You pour a bucket of dirt on that guy and the dirt will just fall off him.
He's such a good...
But he isn't.
Nobody is. Like, he's not annoying. He's Connor, he's humble and he's kind and he's generous. But anyways, so I talked about all these people.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't... Like I said, like Sargon has this... He doesn't really know about environment, and he admits it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't identify with the group that is Sargon, and he wouldn't want the people that listen to his ideas to identify with him. He would want them to challenge him. I want people to challenge what we say, and I wouldn't want people to just follow everything we say agreeably.
Except for the cult stuff.
Yeah, except for the cult. Oh yeah, I take it back actually, I guess, because the cult kind of needs conformity.
Yeah.
But joining a group, identifying with a group, I don't really understand. And I don't think it's useful to think of yourself as part of a group. And except in terms of like shortcuts, like, we need someone to save the princess from Bowser. Who do we call? And it's like, I play video games. I'm a gamer. Same thing, right? So it can be a shortcut that's useful.
The computer is broken. We need a nerd over here.
Yeah, I just don't really get identifying with a group. I probably do, and I'm just not aware. I'm not aware of it. I think I am a leader. That's not what I do. That is what I am by nature. I'm not afraid to say my opinion that is opposite of others. I'm not afraid to take control of a situation. In fact, I end up doing that a lot. But I'm not like that's not like, oh, he's going to take control. Like, I will sit back or I will stand back. Like, it's not...
You're perfectly willing to let someone else take charge if they know what they're doing.
Except I don't really trust other people to do it. So that's what kind of makes me a leader. Because I would be if they were competent.
So you have trust issues, so you have to be a control freak.
Yeah, basically. And being a leader type person doesn't make you better than other people. And there was this huge push when I was in school to make everyone leaders, and they had leadership classes, and everyone should be a leader. And no, because...
Then you have a large amount of people who disagree with each other.
That's fine. But you also need a hierarchy, or society doesn't function. You can disagree with each other, and you can even, like... You can disagree without being a leader, right? Like, you can say, well, I disagree with this idea. Like, you can be a part of a committee of equals or this and that. And a leader shouldn't be above the equals. They should just be the figurehead.
All right, Marx.
They should be the voice. A leader should be the voice of the people. A leader... the voice of the collective.
So the ministry of... Oh, dear.
So a leader is...
person who speaks the will of the people.
They're just the figurehead, though.
Yeah.
They're just the person that's willing to say, all right, so we all voted and it was...
They're the person who delegates.
No. It was like, well, yeah, slightly, but it's like, okay, the vote was 70 to 8 on this issue, and someone has to announce it. Like a newscaster, basically. Like, that could be a leader in a way. They're just the person... And then it's like, all right, what do we do in this situation? Well, the people told me that it was 80-1, so we do this. And then you take the blame when it all goes wrong. But you just don't trust anyone else to do it because they're going to mess it up or not do it the way you want it to be done. So one thing I noticed from our earlier episodes, when I was editing them for the Golden Fool, first of all, very lazy diction in some of them, not pronouncing words properly. I've been trying to work on that. Secondly, we didn't do this on purpose, but we did it anyways, which I think is really cool. Alpharad has a video on his Alpharad Plus channel where he stops talking like Alpharad and starts talking like he does normally. And he turns into this and he's like, okay, so I did this and then, I was going down to the store and I want to get an SD card and there's someone sale and so he did that. He just started talking like that basically. I said, this is how I talk in normal conversation. And it is how people talk in normal conversation.
Yeah.
And he says, so you might think I sound disingenuous or fake, but it'd be really boring if I didn't talk the way I do in this sort of pseudo false excited voice. But and I see what he was getting at, but it's strange because it isn't fake. It's like it's singing versus talking.
Yeah, it's the mindset you're in.
It's like this is the podcasting or radio voice versus the singing voice or the talking voice. And so you want to be more dynamic and you want
reading the book voice.
Yeah.
Like people have very different voices when they're reading a book to someone.
Yeah. Or like the sermon voice are the first 2 episodes boring because if the person doesn't sound excited what they're talking about, then why should you care? If the person who's bringing up the conversation in the first place doesn't care, why should you care? But the other thing that I really was getting to me was the poor pronunciation and enunciation, very lazy talking. And I've noticed watching YouTube videos, some other YouTubers do this, and I was spoiled by Total Biscuit, obviously, because he had the best voice ever. Yes. I read some eulogies to him where they were saying, when I first found his channel, I thought he was using a synthesizer or post-production to make his voice sound that good. But he was just in radio for years before he went onto YouTube.
Yeah.
And so he had an amazing announcer voice. And he pronounced all words very clearly. But a lot of YouTubers don't, and I'm amazed people listen to them because maybe language is just degrading. I listened to this song yesterday. It was a hip-hop song, I think. And I was worried I was having a stroke because he was mumbling so hard. I wasn't sure if he was speaking English or not. I was driving and he was saying and I was, wait, whoa. I can't understand. And I was like, is the road swerving? No, the road's fine. The road is fine. Nothing's swerving. I'm okay. And the cars around me aren't honking or lights flashing so they don't think I'm going crazy even if I don't recognize it myself. But my senses have broken. I can't hear words anymore. Yeah. So pronunciation and excited is good, I guess, my point. And it's not disingenuous.
One thing I have noticed, I'm really disappointed about in us, that we've really failed about, is we don't end on depressing philosophy anymore.
Oh yeah, we used to. Did you listen to the whole last episode? I mean, the whole Golden Fool? And did you like how I sped up my insanely long thing on Young?
Holy cow, okay, so, part of so you edited that, right?
Yeah.
And, you sped it up for a reason.
Yeah.
So, here's me sitting there, and why I make those little comments, especially back then, now I just do it because I think it's a habit I've developed, which I need to kick. But then I was doing it because I was dying, partly. On the inside, I was dying. Because you were rambling and trying to get this point apart, and, it takes you about, I don't know, 10 minutes to formulate a coherent sentence. And that literally kills me.
Well, I thought it was really funny because you're desperately interjecting, hey, we'll wrap up now. All right, thanks all right. And I just keep going on and on. And I was doing that on purpose. I was trying to have a really long rambling thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was so long. After speeding it up, I think it's seconds long.
Yeah.
30 seconds long. And I sped it up a lot. Every 5 seconds, I increased its speed by 10% or 5%, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it just keeps going. But I thought it was a really funny way to end the Golden Fool.
Yeah.
Have and I also made it go quieter and quieter as it went, so that you get to hear more of the song, but it's a very nice song.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I actually have a weird problem with, I don't know if I should play the full song or not, after we finish talking. A lot of the time I just let it run.
Yeah.
Out.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think so, but I don't think it's bad to do, because if someone wants to listen to it, they just can.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, depressing philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
So, back in, the Prehistoric times, Neolithic times.
Yeah.
I would right. Like my vision's really bad. Like I can't see very well without glasses.
You need your specs.
I'd be dead back then. But there is another option, and it was the one. It would be the one I would have to take, and it would actually suit me quite well, I think, because according to Jordan Peterson, he could be wrong. The people that had to struggle through something that other people didn't, that severely limited them, like a physical handicap, like they're missing a foot or a leg or an arm, or they had poor vision or no sense of smell. They had to struggle a lot in their lives, right? To succeed. And they're never going to be as good as the other people around them. But the one advantage they have is it puts a lot of mental pressure on you, and it might make you depressed and sad and anxious. And like you'll be abandoned because you're just a drain on the tribe, or you'll be. And so you go off and you have depression and you die. But once you come back from the dead, you know how to come back from the dead. And so if anyone else has any issues, you can help them through it and you can guide them. And so you become the tribe's shaman. And so I think I would have needed to be a shaman back in those times.
So you would have been a squinting shaman?
Yeah, because I would have been like, well, I can't see, but look at me. I have found the infinite stair, and I have walked towards the ultimate sandwich. And I know that there is a way. You'll have to hunt for me, though, for that advice. That'll cost you 5 elk hide. And
a walk up the mountain.
Yeah. But shaman, actually, they would go through, like, ritualized death to become a shaman, because you had to die and come back. And that is what I did when I got to, like, the end of my depression, right? Like, not the end, the height of my depression. That is death. Like that.
Yeah, some tribes do that, too. Don't, like...
Yeah, well, it was like you bury them alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like to become an adult, you have to face your, like, death, and so then you've always known you faced death and you came back, you succeeded. And so that's what I did. So, you know those dumb bonding ceremonies where men go around in, like, skirts and whack each other with drumsticks, or I don't know how they go. I don't need one because I had depression, so
you just have to go to hell, and then if you can make it back again, you've made it out of hell,
yeah.
and you're better at the beginning of hell.
So I'm a man. I didn't have to beat a dog to death to do it, but...
And you didn't have to have a silly name given to you, like Moonwolf.
Yeah. Although, I don't know if I am. Like, I feel like I need to be more self-sufficient before I can really claim the title man. But hopefully that'll happen. And I want, even if I was self-sufficient at most jobs, like, I don't know, if I'm not a police officer or a pilot or a detective or like a private eye, I feel like I'm just kind of, a wimp. Like, I'm not really living the real life. Like, I haven't shot anyone. Like, I don't know. I'm not in a gang. I feel like I'm not really a man, Like, I don't have, like, some horrible dark past. You ever get that?
No.
Where you feel like police officers and pilots, like, they know something we don't know, and they've, like, lived the life, and, like the...
Why are pilots included in that?
Because, like, they always just, like, you don't need to have someone tell you they're a pilot to know they're a pilot. They look confident, and you notice that pilots are all confident. Like, they're all super charismatic. They don't need to be. It's a very, like, individualistic job, but they all are. Like, they know something. I think when you learn how to fly and you do your first solo flight, you find God. Like, I think he's up there. And like, he says, like, hey, you're a pilot. Nice.
He says, you don't have to speak like this. So for the rest of your life, you're going to have to speak like this.
Yeah, and they just know what they're doing. Like, I just feel... I think authors can get away with it because they can, like, pretend to be all the cool guys. Like, journalists as well. Like, because journalists, that's a fairly dangerous job. And authors, you can pretend you're a journalist. So, I think, like, that also works. But you got to be, like, a police. The only, like, manly professions are police, journalism, pilot, private eye, or author.
Barrel mover.
Or fireman. Or doctor.
Fireman.
Like, you have to have someone's life in your hands.
Mailman.
Back
in the 1800s.
You need people's life in your hands. Yeah, if you're like a coachman, yeah. If you're a coach,
or old mailman, like back in.
Well, yeah, like a coachman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If someone's life's, but if you don't have someone's lives in your lives, you're not a man. That's why you have to have a kid to be a man a lot of the time, because then you're a real responsible adult, because someone's life is in your hands. But like, maybe I need to kidnap someone and then take care of them
and help them fight crime on the mean streets of.
No, just like. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're just not an adult unless you've killed someone. But you don't have to kill them. You just have to have their life in your hands, right?
Maybe?
Like, you see what I'm saying? I think that's a good depressing philosophy to end on, anyways. So
Okay.
yeah, like you're not a man unless you kill someone. But
Okay.
it's ritually kill them. Like you don't have to actually kill them. Like if you're a firefighter, then you've killed them by stealing them from the fire. And if you're a police officer, you've killed them by putting your own life on the line or shooting someone. Or if you're like a pilot, then you have a suit. You can fly. Like, you've been gifted with powers beyond the mortal can.
Okay.
Or if you're an astronaut as well. Yeah. So you need to kill someone.
Yeah, and we'll leave it there then.
I gotta find me.